So when you're dealing with smaller scale agriculture, you don't have the pests that you have with agribusiness because you don't travel as much. So with beekeeping, the bees are being transferred down to, for instance, the orchards in California for almond pollination, and all the diseases are then transferred from one hive to another, and then they're taken back to their homes. So diseases are spread around like nobody's business. And that means that they have to use extra pesticides and antibiotics and things like that to keep the hives alive. And that puts extra stress on them, of course. And that's where colony collapse disorder comes from. But this is just a canary in the coal mine. All agriculture is like this. Everything is moved around now and then on such large scale that the pests, viruses, diseases, the stress that we see on honeybees is now being experienced in every area of agriculture. So it's not something that can go on forever. At a certain point, different areas of agriculture will collapse, like we've seen with honeybees. So it's just the perfect storm.
So then small-scale farming and urban agriculture conducted by small-scale operators is a remedy or an answer to...
Well, you're mitigating. The pests will never go away, but with bees, for instance, you can keep your hives more sanitary and less stressed, so you don't have to use as many pesticides, as many antibiotics. And also, that's where the solutions will come from. So hopefully we'll start developing, for instance, with honeybees, types of honeybees that are disease resistant. To block the entrance with when I'm moving the beehive around, that way they can still breathe, but they can't get through. This is an entrance reducer. You use this on a weaker hive to prevent yellow jackets from attacking or to prevent other bees from robbing your hive. This is the outer lid. You can use an old-fashioned bottom board. This only has, it's missing one of the pieces along the top. That allows ventilation. But most people now use for backyard beekeeping are using a pitched roof of some sort. You can make your own roof, I do. This is the inner cover. I don't know why we use inner covers, but we do. Part of it is when you're opening up the hive, it's a step where the bees can adjust to the fact that you're opening. But it has also helps with ventilation and helps them making bird comb up above where your roof is. So most bees have, most hives have an inner cover. Nowadays they're getting fancy, just like the roofs. I use a Vivaldi board, which is wider than this and has holes in the sides, and allows you to use a feeding tray up here on the top if you want to. Vivaldi boards are, they're just a deeper form of inner cover. You would normally have another box here where you'd be keeping the honey supers. This is your queen excluder. So the bees are going to come up into the upper supers and are going to fill them with honey, but the queen can't get through this. So you can see that's the 1/4 to 3/8 inch bee space that the queen cannot get through.
So how come they make so much more honey than they need?
They don't always. It's just the conditions. So you're not always going to get extra honey if you're a good beekeeper. What you want to do is make sure that your deeps have enough honey to get through the winter. You shouldn't be able to lift your hive very easily at all. It should be so heavy that when you go to lift, there'll be 2 deeps. It'll be like, okay. On the other hand, if it goes like that, then you're not taking any honey off because you're not, they don't have enough to get through the winter. Some hive tool, very, very, very slowly crack the edges, and then lift. You should be able to pull the top cover off your hive like that and see thousands of little heads looking up at you. And you can tell right there you've got the bees you need. It's a healthy hive. So you don't need to go in and do more. if you're not seeing thousands of little hives looking up, heads looking up at you, you take your hive tool, you break it loose on the edges, and you take out the last frame of honey here on the edge. Always put your hive tool back. You always forget it. And then you break off one of these at a time. Oh, don't forget you're moving like this.
When there's bees in there, you don't have any and stuff.
You can also take a soft cloth, put it over like that. Just prevent bees from flying up at you. I don't do it very often, but sometimes I use a soft cloth. Take these out one at a time. There are guards, and they don't want you in that space. You can stand on the side. I encourage you to come up and do it. They are not going to attack you. The first thing you want to learn about beekeeping is how to read a hive from the outside. Remember when in that slide I had for bee handling? Well, the first thing that you saw on there was bee weather conditions. This is a perfect day today. This is a day when the bees are going to be in a really good mood. So you should be able to go up and not have any problems with them. What you want to do is, first thing you do to inspect a hive is look at the movement. Are they bringing pollen in on their legs? If they are, that means that there's eggs and larvae, because they're feeding the larvae. If there's no pollen coming in on a day like this, that means there's no larvae. You've got a problem. So there's a lot you can tell from just looking at the front of the hive. As beginning beekeepers, I think of my bees as my vegetable garden or my back. They're on my back patio. I have my chair right here. So I sit and I read my paper and I drink my wine in the afternoon and my coffee in the morning with my bees. So this is even though they're both top bar hives, the Wari is a top bar hive. This is traditionally what they call a top bar hive. It's more like a trough. And it also has the popsicle sticks. It's a little bit wider frame. And you get frames of honeycomb like this. With like a hand construction. This is a frame puller. You don't need to use this. You can just lever it up using your hive tool from the ends, but it's so much easier. Always move very slowly, especially right now, because you'll be rolling these against each other. Okay. This is a shallow. See how much shorter it is? So if you lifted up this whole thing, even though it's full of honey, it'd probably only weigh about 25 pounds.
So that's all honey, right?
No, this is empty. The next one's honey. So. But this is just a canary in a coal mine. All agriculture is like this. Everything is moved around now and then on such a large scale that the pests, viruses, diseases, the stress that we see on honeybees is now being experienced in every area of agriculture. So it's not something that can go on forever. At a certain point, different areas of agriculture will collapse. Right?